Hi, Priyanka.
Hello. Hi, Sonia.
Finally. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening.
We are just waiting for everybody to get in.
Sure.
Hi, everybody. It would be really nice if you can switch on your cameras. Good to look at everybody. Why should only you look at us? You know. So, remember, how's the festival going for you? You've been watching the films?
Yes, amazing. I mean, I yesterday saw two Spanish films and wow, it was
You
good.
saw two what?
Spanish films.
Ah, which
Yeah,
ones?
it's called, one of them is called Exist, and I forgot the other.
name.
Sure.
But yeah, I commented on that as well because I love them so much, like really, and I love Spanish films. Like,
Yeah.
I guess this the the locations as well. They have beautiful color palette that they use,
Hmm.
and I got to see that like in these two films as well. So it's lovely.
Super. So
Yeah,
you watched two films. So you have, I think, more 320 something to
yeah,
go.
more to
You're
go.
packed for this lifetime.
Absolutely. And I'm so like excited to watch, like I'll be getting so much to watch in these 3 months. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You can actually get off your Netflix for a bit.
I don't have Netflix. This is the Netflix for me. Yeah.
Lovely. Angad, are you able to switch it on? How's it going for you? Angad is busy. Okay, great. So I think we should start and anybody can just join in later. Welcome, Priyanka. Thank you so much for coming to Malhar Film Festival at such a short notice.
No, no, thank you. I'm very excited. I'm sorry I'm going to sound a bit nasal throughout because I've had a viral the last couple of days, but I'm all good now. And yeah, you're just going to have to hear a nasal sounding voice. But other than that, it's all good.
No, no, it doesn't at all bother. And I didn't even know we were chatting all throughout this week and you were in viral. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's just the weather here in Mumbai, which is like
Yeah,
always unpredictable. So yeah.
absolutely. No, so take it easy. Don't stress yourself if you're not able to speak. Don't worry. Don't
No,
stretch.
no, no, no. I'm absolutely fine now. So I'm very excited. And yeah, yeah, we can do a lot of chatting. Don't worry about that.
Yay! Awesome. Oh, Angad, hi. What's up? How's the festival going for you?
Hi, it's been good. Since I'm not following the films right now, because I've been busy with other things.
Sure.
Maybe from tomorrow I'll follow the films and all that.
Yeah. How was Brooke's session
Oh,
for
it
you?
was awesome. It was awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, yes.
Things opened up for you?
Yeah, definitely. He shared his experience and everything. So,
Yeah. Nah, I know Brooks had good things to say. I wouldn't say it, otherwise you all will start flying cloud nine. Not allowed. He told me not to, but yeah, I'm glad. So okay. So everybody join me in welcoming Priyanka Banerjee. She is a filmmaker, independent filmmaker, works in Bollywood as well. She is into advertising. She does so many things that I think she can only do justice to her area of work. But the reason I requested her to come in is because like there is this whole topic that we decided to speak on, which is introducing characters and settings, and I honestly could not think of who better to request to come in, because characters and settings in our understanding happens here, but whether are we articulating that over an advertisement or over an ad can be very different, and yet it comes, the genesis is from the same person. So Priyanka, being that person who works across all those different formats and churns out stories and wins awards like left, right, center, like that. So it is, it is I think what we are going to hear from here is that how does her mind operate, how does she go about things, and we're going to get really deeper into it. So Priyanka, welcome. This is a small
Thank
community
you.
that you see right now, but like I said, that Malhar has had a good progress this year also. We have had like 1,000+ film submissions, and all the people sitting here have been shortlisted, but actually it's been about 300 plus filmmakers from different parts of the world that have been shortlisted. So the way we are making sure that everybody gets value is that all these sessions are recorded, and at some time after the festival, or maybe during the festival, depend on my mood, they will be they will be shared with whoever couldn't make it, and then depending on if they have questions, they can reach out to you or to us, and so basically the conversation will continue. It's not limited to this conversation
Right.
here. Yeah.
Right.
Great. So Priyanka, very excited. Please help us know little more about you, more than the IMDb.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So just in a nutshell, I mean, I think first of all, Sonia, thank you so much for having me. And it's always nice when it's a small, group because it's just a lot more interactive, and I like feeling like I'm actually talking to people and not just to, just virtual names, which are how a lot of the sessions like these were, especially in the lockdown and all of that, because that's when I did a lot of these. So yeah, just to give you a very quick, in a nutshell, I'm a writer director. I started out in the medium of theater, so I spent a large number of years working actually in theater, and then moved over to film. And I did it all through my own company. So I was one of those rare people that actually learned by just creating a lot of my own stuff and my own projects and hoping they will kind of do well. But along the way, I also started working with a lot of other production houses and kind of contributing as a writer or as a director for them. So, I mean, I started out, kind of doing theater, and I did a very specific genre of theater called theater for learning, which meant theater that was more in the edutainment genre of like diversity and inclusion related theater. So I did a lot of plays, about 70, 80 shows that I wrote, directed, acted in, produced. Literally, it was like, lots of people would come together, but all of them were like my stories and things I would do. And then somewhere along the way, I discovered the medium of film, which I loved because I really believe that there is a way each one of us innately tells a story, and for me, it was very visual. So, like with some people, they tell it through painting or through writing or through different things. But for me, visuals was how I literally would see like 8 by 10 glossies of whatever story I wanted to tell, and that's how I knew that I'm kind of meant to do film. So then I moved on from theater. I still do theater once in a while, but it's definitely more film focused now. So I took my company in that direction as well, and I started writing and directing my own short films, which I sent to festivals like these, and a couple of them got some recognition. And then about 2 years ago, I did a short film, which was a little bit more like, I would say, a Hindi film industry recognized sort of thing, which was this film called Devi, which I did, early in 2020, just at the, I would say, just like 10, 15 days before the lockdown. So it was also great timing because everybody was captive and they were watching it and they were sending it to each other, and that was helpful. And then ever since Devi, I think I got started getting a lot of offers to do ads, to do narrative based work. So yeah, I mean, I've kind of, the company and I have kind of grown together, but I really enjoy production, and I do produce a lot of things that I don't direct as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a very good summary, but yeah, that is that's a little bit of an introduction on what I do. Basically, writer, director across mediums, and film being my, I guess, my favorite medium right now.
Beautiful. So, considering that you've been traversing across mediums, what are your two memories? Just two, that across different palettes that you've touched upon have stayed with you.
Hmm. Okay, but you're saying across anything, like the ads I've done, or short
Yeah.
films, or
Yeah. So,
anything.
take up the films, take up ads, take up theater, but
Yeah,
some memories make us, you
yeah,
know, they stay with us, and they're always like a TikTok, TikTok, TikTok going on, and we keep retouching those memories
right.
as we grow.
Yeah.
What are those for you?
I think because Devi was seen by a lot of people, definitely, I think the obvious answer would be that. But I will tell you that the first short film I ever made was made on a budget of I had someone who was financing it, and the day before the shoot, they kind of decided not to, because I guess they didn't understand the script or something. And I was like, you were talking to me for months. Like, how could you not have understood the script or told me your problems with it? And so last minute, basically, I just had to fund it myself. And that kind of brought in a whole other dynamic. I just basically I had written a script. It's this film called Commas. You can all find it on YouTube. I think it's on Pocket Films channel. So it was the first short film I ever made, right? And I just written a script, and very ambitiously, I had written a script with 15 characters for my first short film. And it was all supposed to be in a cafe. And of course, I didn't have money to pay a single actor. So I had just reached out to, people that were honestly faces that, would be relatively well known. I mean, actors like Rajesh Balwani, Sanjay Gurbaksani. Now that you see them do a lot of bit parts here and there, but absolutely working professional actors. Like, it wasn't me and my friends who decided to make a film together, although a few of my friends are in the film. But it was a very chaotic experience because, of course, as a director, you're trying to focus on the story, but there
Mm.
are so many things happening when you're making a film. I mean, there is like somebody can walk in through a door and walk into your frame. It was a real restaurant where we were trying to shoot, where we had asked them for 6 to 7 hours to kind of shoot the film, completely miscalculated how much time we'll need. So somewhere towards the end, real people who needed to eat in the restaurant started walking in, and we're trying to like fit them into our frame, and the continuity is going for a toss. So it was pretty crazy. And I think it's one of the first times I started doing it, and now I do it regularly, which is I actually slot a time just to panic. So in the schedule, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take out 10 minutes, go into that room or a restroom or whatever's available, and do whatever I need to do, whether it's cry, whether it's hyperventilate, whatever, and then come right back out. And I know some of you who are listening to this are like, why would somebody choose to do this as a profession? But I think it's like that, anything you're passionate about, even when it gets hard, you kind of have to um
Yeah.
trudge along. So that was a very memorable, I think, filmmaking experience for me because I'd never done it before. And so many kind people and actors who were just doing it because, they liked the script,
Mm.
and they were like, you know what, even if you don't know anything, we'll come and, kind of indulge you. And it was a great experience. And the film, even though when you watch it, I hope some of you will go and watch it. It's
Sure.
not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination. Technically, it's all over the place. Several shots are out of focus. It's many things, but I think it's made with such rawness of intent. Like, it's just
Yeah.
made with like such a lot of love, and so many people just trying to do their thing, that I think it's one of my fondest filmmaking experiences. And I don't think that feeling quite comes back once you know your craft that well.
True.
Once you know things, once everybody's set, the set is set, you just come, you sit, there's craft service, there are all these things. That feeling is not there after that, because then you're just although inside you feel like the same filmmaker, no filmmaker will tell you that nobody actually knows what they're doing. When you get there, it's all about the flux and making sense of the flux. But that first feeling on your first film, I think, is priceless. So that's at least one of the memories.
Mm.
um what about a second one? I would say Devi, because then Devi was the complete extreme on the other end, where I was dealing with 9 very well known actors, and being on for the first time on a set that had a vanity van, because I had never ever shot something of that scale before. So to have all of them there to see how a real industry set works, even if it's for a short film,
Mm.
because if your film has someone like Kajol, you will run it at an industry standard. You can't do
Of
it like a
course.
student short film.
Yeah.
So you have to do it the right way, and to get that experience. And literally, I think it was my first experience that there were people walking onto set and I didn't know who they were. Like like there are
Yeah.
light dadas walking and all of that. Like, I had been on sets before where I knew every person by name,
Mm.
and now it was like 150 people. And it's pretty scary to think that this giant light and these 10 guys and all of them are here for something I want to say with my story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So two polar opposite, but I think they really seared into my brain, and I go back to them when I'm trying to think when I'm looking back at my. I mean, I don't get nostalgic very often, but when I do start thinking that, oh, what have I done or what have I achieved or whatever, these are, I think, the two that come up as
But is
memories.
this
Yeah.
the shoot for Devi? Are you saying that this was like you walked into 150 people set for the first time and that was your direction?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this
Oh,
is honestly all credit to give to my producers, because I had directed just Commas, which you find on. I'm plugging my films constantly. So there's Commas, which is on Pocket Films on YouTube, and there's another film called Dayalu, which is on Hotstar.
okay.
These two films were the only films I had made before Devi, and
Mm.
I had written a feature script actually. So they had read that and they knew that she does understand storytelling, but as a
Mm.
director, This
Yeah.
is all I had done. So they took a huge gamble, because
Wow.
also I was very like, I won't give you the script unless I direct it. So it was very like, guys, I'm not giving you the script without that. I don't know if I'd recommend it for everyone, because there is nothing wrong with just, kind of having some industry experience as somebody a little bit more junior and then moving into directing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I had some quirk and I was like, I just want to direct it myself. And they were like, I mean, I had two producers, Ryan, the late Ryan Stephen, I mean, who passed away last year. But I mean, Ryan Stephen and Niranjan Iyengar. Niranjan is, of course, a very well-known screenwriter. I mean, if you guys go and look him up, he's written all your favorite Karan Johar films. He's done the dialogue for and all of that. So he's great. But he was dubious. He was like, this girl's not done anything, and we're putting her on set to direct Kajol. It's a lot,
Yeah.
And but Ryan said that no, she'll do it, and they
Wow.
kind of managed to put me there. And but having said that, Niranjan actually completely helped me on set. So I mean, even the person who has doubts about you, eventually it's such a collaborative medium that even they come on board and things happen. But yeah, it was my first time directing anything of that scale.
That's a
So
big
yeah.
one. That's huge, big, of course. And I mean, nothing to discount from it. Of course, they saw something brilliant, and which is what we see in Devi. But I agree. What a beautiful collaboration. That's
Yeah,
something that a lot of
absolutely.
filmmakers just sort of miss it to not find that kind of a support, that kind of a faith. You know,
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
head, of course, everybody sorted in
Yeah.
everything. That's the pain of a creative person. We all know that the blowers will blow and the lights will light and we'll say cut, and that's how it's going to happen. But for the rest of the things to happen, it's a wow. Okay, so I didn't tell you about this, but I have a trend of rapid fires.
Oh God. Okay. Cool.
So what do you like more, close-ups, mids, or longs?
Longs.
Would you rather cast by audition or recommendations?
Audition.
Would you have a known AD or a known production manager?
Known AD.
Mhm. Would you rather have the best cinematographer or the best editor?
The best cinematographer.
All right. So, like, I have a invisible hamper, like the famous Karan, like the famous Karan Johar. So here it goes to you. I will hand it over
Thank
to you in
you.
Mumbai next time, but right now it's virtual. All right. So back to our topic. We're talking about your processes, really, like, and I guess to everybody in the audience, what we've seen is how Priyanka's journey has been totally self-made. So much self-made that it's been across verticals, across genres, across levels, right? And she hasn't gone to a film school. So sticking to our topic of what they don't teach you at the film school about the filmmaking, what is your process, Priyanka, today, as in today? What process do you follow?
So see, I'm a writer director, so I mostly with fiction tend to write everything I direct. I mean, only about this year I'm beginning to explore directing things that I've not written, but otherwise that is the process begins from writing. So that's where it begins for me. And I would say this is equally applicable to directors who also don't write, because even if you were brought onto a project as a director, you would first have to consider and survey the writing. I mean, that's going to be the first thing you kind of have to look at. So for me, I think what I do is I write down a bunch of concepts or ideas that are kind of important to me. And in the moment, what I try to do is basically put together, central themes of each concept. So what am I trying to say? I think that's very important, because just telling that, oh, this would be a fun story to tell. You can have films like that also. But
Mhm.
I really feel films that are not saying anything, or where the director or the writer has not figured out what is my take, why am I saying this? If that's not figured out, then you get caught. And people might say that, oh, the acting was bad, or the pace was bad, second half may drop ho gaya, whatever people are trying to say. What they're really trying to say is, I can't tell what this film was saying. Like, what were they trying to do? That
Hmm.
that's actually the when you really distill it, that's what actually someone's feedback is when they don't like a film.
Is it the same as
So
messaging?
Not really, because I think not every film has to have a message. Like, if you look at a film like, I don't know if you've all seen it, everyone go watch it if you've not seen it, called Manchester by the Sea,
Mm.
directed by Kenny Lonergan. Now, if you watch the film, right, it's basically a commentary on grief and on guilt and certain things like that, right? But it's done in a way where it's a very kind of breezy, in parts very sad, in parts comedic. It's a very strange sort of a film, right? And
Mm.
you may not really walk away knowing what it was trying to say,
Mhm.
but I think what it's the director, when in the way that's been created, you can tell that they were very clear what they were trying to say, whether or not you have
You
caught on
got
to
it.
that.
Mm.
And that conviction needs to come across. So even if you're like, I'm trying to say that, you know plants are green, or even if it's that, and it doesn't matter anybody else get it or not, because you will have such a conviction in how you tell it,
Mm.
that they will be like, kuch to acha laga iske bare mein, even
Right.
if we don't know what we liked. And that is actually because there is no logic to why someone likes a film and why they don't. I really don't believe there is. I mean, people there might be like screenwriting books and direction books and all of that, but it's innately about how authentically you told the story. I really believe that, at least in whatever I've done. So yeah, so I think that I start from that. I'm like, okay, what do I want to say, what do I want to see rather in what I'm writing. So I kind of have a short kind of a synopsis concept kind of a thing. And for me, at least, I always have the beginning and the end sorted. So like even with Devi, I was like, it begins like this, it ends like this. And now the middle of it, we will figure out, but it has to begin and end like this. And for anything I've ever made, even with ads for that matter that I've written, or slightly more narrative, kind of ads that I've written, it's always been about, it'll start this way, it'll end this way, and then the rest we will figure out, because that you really can figure out. I mean, that
Mm.
I think anyone can. So yeah, that's kind of how I write. And then for direction, I think once it moves, first of all, the process of getting something you've written to a set, I mean, that in itself needs to be another conversation, because that is where most filmmakers are actually sadly hanging in the balance, that
Yes.
I've written something great, now
Yeah.
what do I do with it, where do I take it? And it is a business. It's
Mm.
not entirely creative, it's not entirely artistic, and you kind of have to, the sooner you accept that, I think the more at peace you'll be, actually, because you'll be like, there are people here putting in money, and I have to offer them something to put in
Right.
that money.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. Nobody will give you anything for free, and
Yeah.
nobody will give it to you because you want to make a film.
Mm.
That's not going to happen. So it took me a while to understand that. I mean, I would get very angsty about it, that it's a great story, and this that and the other, and why can't it happen, and why can't, I'm not saying anything new. I think 100 filmmakers would say that it is a business, and you have to kind of go to people who would get it, and who are specifically at that moment in time where they will get it. That's another thing, because there are certain producers you may think are amazing for your script, but they've done stuff like that before, and so
Right.
this is not the time for them, so you got to figure that out. And after that hurdle is also crossed, you come finally to the direction process.
Mm.
Honestly, the way I prep is I kind of make the script very central to everything. So
Mm.
any HOD I bring on board, whether it's an art person, whether it's a stylist, whether it's, they all need to have read the script, they all need to have a take on the script.
Mm.
I think that's very important that they connect with it as a story. And I take script feedback even from a stylist, like,
Nice.
because you're an audience, you're someone who's going to watch the film. And I try to specifically send my scripts for feedback to people who have no film background.
Mm.
So send it to your friends, your family, your auntie G's, your this one, that one, because they are your audience, and they are going to tell you, what, if they didn't understand something that's alarming, because someone who's a screenwriter
Mm.
might get this little nuance you're trying to do, but
Yeah.
that's not your audience, and you
Yeah.
have to kind of be open to that. So sorry, this answer can really go on and on, so let me know
No.
if I need to break it up at any point. But yeah,
No.
that is sort of some idea of what the prep is like. I try
Mm.
and do at least for any project, whether it's an ad or a short film, or now I'm beginning to do some, I mean, for long format stuff that I'm doing now, I need at least a couple of months. I mean, you can't just prep like that, but usually at least 2-3 weeks for everybody to kind of get on
Come
board,
together.
and then correct, and then to start yeah. And I think always really, I would say, think about who you're casting for the part.
Hmm.
because that, if you cast people who are just right and who are, for me it's a bit of a cop out, but I try and pick people who are already like the character. Like,
Mhm.
I don't try and pick people who are great actors.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
great actors can come on set and they can really, really try, but there will be somebody who just naturally, you will know amongst the
It's
actors that you know or the people you know, who just naturally are that person.
mm,
And that is just the easiest thing, because you need to get them there, you need to make them do a couple of things and then get kind of get in that direction. Yeah, but I mean, all of these are entirely subjective, just things that work for me. You have to figure out what works for you, and you will have projects that don't go so well, and then you will figure out that it didn't go so well because I didn't listen to my voice in terms of that, or I listened to too many people's voices, or whatever it has to do. So yeah, I think that's a little bit on how my
I guess
process works. And it's
that's
not film.
that's the way
Yeah,
you think. I think that's why you understood Match My Talent the other day so easily
yeah,
about
yeah,
finding, like a person fitting in rather than it being somebody that you already know or somebody who's established or something. But I mean, you know a character, you see a character, you know that this one would be, just a more compatible character to position in that case.
yeah, absolutely. And I would rather take someone that's easy to work with. And I don't just mean in terms of fitting the part, but even for HODs,
Mm,
people, that's heads of department. I mean, sorry, I'm sure everyone knows that, but yeah,
yeah,
kind of, like, you have to take people who would be fun to work with, a good vibe,
yeah.
will kind of show up on time, will not throw their weight around because you're a newer director. There's
Mm,
also those kind of people, which is it's just really like there is no amount of talent or expertise they can bring to the table that is worth dealing with that.
yeah.
So I think it's that for me, at least,
Mm.
from my experience. So yeah, that's how it's been.
Awesome. So I think just for a quick recap, I think what you said, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you said was you begin with, of course, writing. That's your forte. That's where you begin originally, and you put in your ideas, and you start fleshing out some of them, start building them into longer, bigger drafts. And then the biggest thing that I heard you saying was that you take a lot of feedback. So you would, once it is at a certain shape that you are comfortable with, then you would go out and show it to get everybody to read it and build it further based on their reactions. And I'm
Yeah,
sure it's a said and an unsaid thing, but what you mean is it's not like everybody's feedback is to be taken, but it is definitely to be heard, that
absolutely.
what's being said. And then it's the director writer's choice of which one you take and which one you sort of pocket, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then it's about putting the team together which aligns with that script, which understands the intent. And also I think one very powerful thing that you said was about having your intent sorted in what you're writing, for it not to be just a picture perfect story, but your context of what are you trying to say out of that story needs to be very clear to you. As long as it's very clear to you, it will probably show up
yeah,
in the entire execution.
exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, cut to advertising line. So, I was wondering that if an advertising client comes to you and says that, hey, Priyanka, I want to create a unique visual style for our film, what would be
Mhm.
your approach?
Yeah, I mean, every client ever will tell you that I want it to be unique, I want it to be different. It should never have been done before. And you're like, yeah, I mean, there are only seven original stories in the world. So that's a bit tough. But yeah, we can make it something more uniquely you. And I think what I try and sell clients on a little bit more is, let's make it something that will stay with someone at an emotional level, because we tend to not ignore those kind of things. Those are the things that stay with you. In the minute anything connects with you on an emotional level, like it genuinely makes you laugh, or it genuinely makes you feel something, or feel inspired, or feel whatever, you're less likely, you will just remember it as a story, and the brand just happens to be there.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. And I, to be honest, don't do a lot of those very classic commercials. I mean, I haven't moved into that space, and I don't think I ever will, because I don't enjoy it. Those
Mm,
very classic TVCs, which are like, here is this shampoo, and this is like, that is not what I do. So
mm,
just to clarify to everybody,
yeah.
the kind of advertising I do is more like branded content. So
Mm,
stories within which brands naturally occur.
R-
So that kind of stuff. And absolutely, it's funded by the brand. The script has to be approved by the brand, the edit, everything. So it is like a commercial in terms of the process. But what you finally see is something that can work as a standalone short film, or can work as just a creative piece,
That's the
regardless
most
of the.
difficult part to make, I think. The branded films are
Yeah.
the most difficult ones to make.
Correct. So, but the thing is, I think one advantage is the clients when they're making something like that, even the marketing teams. Like if I take, I've done a lot of stuff for Nika or whatever. So if I even take any of these clients as an example, they have people within their marketing teams that are working on those very typical cookie cutter
Mhm.
sort of commercials. They have
Right.
people that way, and they're going to go and work with the people they want to work with in
Yeah.
in that area, because there are a lot of fabulous filmmakers who do that.
Yeah.
And for this branded content, or for the more narrative, more emotional, they have a different set of people trying to work on that. And they come to you very much wanting to trust you with it. So
Mm.
I think that is because they come to you saying, we don't know how this works really. We're also trying something. You give us a script if we like it. And what's really nice about it is they're also reading it as people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
first they read it, they're like, do we like the story? Does it really mean something to us? And then of course they have to think about the brand, and they have to think about what are the places in the story where we can place the brand.
Hmm.
And that does come into it. And it can be a little bit annoying sometimes when you're shooting, you're like, because they'd be like, just place this like a
Place this.
little bit
Place
like this.
place the box
Or just
somewhere.
yeah, or just make sure the actor's drinking it in a way where you can really see it and all of that. So that is a little annoying, but then you have to remind yourself that listen, they're doing this for their brand. This is
Yeah.
not, my funded short film. I mean, this is not that. So I think that, yeah, I mean, that is definitely something to kind of to work on, and you have to. And I think it's great because those limitations are really good for a creative person. Like
Mm.
I don't think it's good to just get this free reign, do whatever you
Do
want.
whatever you want. Yeah.
Once in a while you must get limitations, that within this what can you do now. And it's really good to kind of even exercise your mind. And I would recommend that everybody does a little bit of ads, because it teaches you amazing, like, how to tell a story in a short period of time.
Short time.
And I wouldn't say do too much of it also, because
Mm.
you will start to feel like your craft is getting a bit compromised in the process. Because like if
Mm.
you wrote a film on your own, no one has to. People may tell you whether they like it or they don't like it, but nobody can tell you whether you should make it or whether you're allowed to do something or the other. That is what
Right.
happens with clients.
Yeah.
And a lot of them come on set, they're sitting with a monitor and they're telling you, but you have to draw that boundary and say that, you've hired me as the director, so now you have to trust me. I
Let
mean,
me do.
this
Yeah.
let me do my job. There are some directors, I mean, I'm very thankful, touchwood, I have not had that experience, but there are some directors who, like, the clients and the agency and all, have like jumped on their heads on set and not let them control the process at all.
Yeah.
So that can be difficult. But yeah, I think with the kind of space I work in, they tend not to, kind of get in the way too much. So that's good.
Nice. So, in terms of processes, when you're working on an independent film where you have all the choices, but suppose your cinematographer does not align with your approach, and cinematographer you said would be your close confidant, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, if your cinematographer does not align with your approach, what would you do?
I mean, change the approach or convince them, because the cinematographer has to be like, it's like your work soulmate.
Mm.
Like on set,
Hmm.
that person is your best friend, and they have to. I mean, you have to be like partners in crime.
Yeah.
Because if anyone comes, the stylist comes and says this can't happen, the art person comes and says this can't happen, the location client, whatever, you have to be on the same page and be like, no, but we need this, but this has to, like, because if you are at war with each other, it's literally the person telling the story and the person that is literally, how do I say, like, sort of okay, let's just say, just to use it like like a metaphor, if I'm trying to put on a play,
Mm-hmm.
the cinematographer is like kind of the person literally giving the eyes to the audience to watch it.
Yes.
So without this person, I can be telling any story in any corner of the world, but it's not going to get told the
So,
way it
would you
needs to.
rather change your approach or would you change the cinematographer?
I hope it never gets there because I tend to pick people that are amiable and who want to finally subscribe to my vision also. I tend to pick people that who are like that.
Mm.
But opinionated people are great. I just think people who are, you don't want a troublemaker. So you can have
True.
someone who says, look, I don't agree. And
Mm.
this is not the way to do this. But then finally, there has to be that final boundary after which they're like, you know what, it's okay. We'll do your approach. If you really believe in it, let's do it your way. And I will do my best doing it your way, not that I will begrudgingly do your way.
Mm.
That is not what you want from anybody, right? So, like
Try and
that, you,
coexist. So you will try and
absolutely.
coexist and change the approach if it needs to be. It
I very
shouldn't be.
rarely had, yeah, I very rarely had a situation, actually, never really, where the DOP and I are like completely disagree on the approach because there are many ways to tell a story.
Yeah.
And, they are supposed to
Beautiful.
be there to facilitate that process. They're not
Yeah.
supposed to be there to assert that
Yeah.
this is my, because they very, I think most any DOPs you guys will work with as well, they know that you're the director and they
Mm.
know that you are supposed to take the final call. So if they are to that extent kind of overriding what you're saying, then they're probably not the right person to work with
Person.
because they have to respect you, and that's very very important as you respect them in their craft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if they were to tell me that no, this lens doesn't work or this setup time will take 20 minutes, no matter what I do, I have to take 20 minutes to do this.
Mm.
The same way I have to respect that. You have to respect that this is the overall vision I have. I'm like the person who's sitting and otherwise what is the director's role, right? It's to get a clear picture of everything happening,
Yeah.
whereas everyone will go more focused into their
Yeah. It's a
department.
larger picture. The director is always looking at the larger
Exactly.
picture, making things happen.
Yeah.
So I think the other equally important partner in crime is your actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So and actors like the crew has of course the technicalities to take care of, but the actor
Hmm.
has a lot to carry on their shoulder. The director's vision, their own appetite, their own way, own style. There is a lot to maneuver. It's not just one approach, right? So considering that actors need their own space to deliver the director's vision, and what comes out, what the kind of films that really stay with us is where there's a beautiful harmony between the director's vision and the actor's own inputs. If that be so, then at what point would you ask an actor to do a retake?
Hmm. Yeah, very good question, actually. Got me thinking about my own process now with these questions. Yeah, but okay, let's just say that I think I have a very clear picture when I'm directing of how the final film will look. So I'm editing as I'm directing, I guess that's the best way to put it. So I don't collate everything and then decide, okay, now what kind of film am I going to do? It's not that. The film is very clear in my head, sometimes too clear, because you have to leave room for things to change.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. I think on set, I have a very clear idea of how this line should be taken. And
Hmm.
unless they make it better than what it should have been, I
Hmm.
ask them to go back to what it was. So if they try and take it a separate way, but that separate way is, or that different way is not helping the tone of the scene the way I had seen it,
Hmm.
then I'm like, you know what, can we do this again? And so I always, if actors say I want to try this, I want to do this, I absolutely let them do it. I mean, especially when you are shooting digitally, you have no excuse to not allow somebody another 10-15 minutes to try something they wanted to do. I mean, it's unless it's a technically very difficult shot, like unless it's that where or we're running out of time, which
Hmm.
also happens. But I'm saying other than that, you must allow somebody, but then they have to allow you the to discern whether it belongs in the edit or not. And yeah, I think I tell them to retake. Of course, if any technical problem happens, then of course. But the other
That's
thing
different.
is when, yeah, but I do tell them to retake when I feel like the experimental path they've gone on is not working for what we wanted to do in the
You're
scene.
very clear.
Or
You're very clear in your head of, like you said, I think you've said it earlier, that you're very clear of the output. The last frame, the last few
absolutely,
frames are very
yeah.
clear.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I've like when I've come on set for anything, once I know who all the actors are going to be, I kind of run the film in my mind once. So I kind of watch the film,
hmm,
uh, with all of them playing their parts, everything once in my head. It sounds a bit strange, but like I just watch it. And then
Hmm.
when I go on set, I'm like, okay, can we get exactly that? Because that's very good for me. Or
Hmm.
can we get something better? And
Hmm.
that better actually happens because of the brilliance of the individual people who are on set and what they bring in, because they have not seen what you visualize in your head. So
Yeah.
they are coming with that freshness. But yeah, you've got to protect that vision or make it better. Just not let it drop. That, I think that's the balance.
Yeah, because somebody else that I was talking to a few days back did share very candidly that they get carried away with the actor's approach, and a lot of times they find that approach to be uh like they can't define whether it's a good approach or a not good approach, but they get drawn towards it, and which
Yeah.
means that they go in a space of being unsure about their own vision, and what they see the actors performing in front of them looks more vivid, looks more clear, and so in a way they said, okay, carry on, what you're doing is fine,
Yeah.
but at the end they have a tough time stitching it all together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember even on Devi, right? Like, the, I think the whole first half of the film, I had actually seen Kajol ma'am's character just sitting at the dining table. Like, I didn't imagine her walking around.
Hmm.
And she was very clear that she should be walking around, because she was like, this is like, I'm saying so many things and so many things are happening. Why am I just sitting?
Hmm.
And I look back at it. I mean, I don't know how I was arguing with her, because I had not shot anything before, but I was just like, but I see it this way. I see it this way. And she's like, I don't care how you see it. I should be walking around. And she's also someone who's very kind of
Strong.
vociferous in what she feels creatively, and she says it and all of that. And she was right, because her walking around and standing and all of that really helped it. So sometimes you do, I think I have the opposite problem, that I can get a bit rigid with how I've seen it,
Hmm.
as opposed to getting carried away. But
Hmm.
getting carried away is a whole other kind of problem, because
Yeah,
then you don't know what film you've made. At the end of it, there are like 10 voices
true.
that have made the film
Wow,
instead of yours.
such diverse processes. So, would you agree that characters and settings are the heart of any story, or there is something else that's more closer to the heart?
I think that's the intent, but yeah, there is the first thing I think also when I decide to tell a story is where it's happening and who it's happening to, right? And that is your character and setting. That's the first thing you have to. That's your first line.
Hmm.
That in this city there was this person to whom this happened, and they were this kind of person. So I think that's very central. Absolutely, it's your starting. I mean, you have your whole
It
story
is.
starts from there.
It's your heart. So, what is your process then about giving birth to the character, and then giving life, infusing life into it? How do you set them in?
I actually earlier had this very organic way of writing where I would not consult any real screenwriting texts or anything like that. I mean, there is a brilliant short film kind of writing workshop that I did 3 years in a row. It was like a four-day workshop at Whistling Woods. If all of you know Whistling Woods in Mumbai, Anjum Rajabali sir, who's a screenwriter, he himself would take that workshop for 3 or 4 days somewhere in the beginning of the year. And I did the same workshop thrice. I don't know why. I just loved it. And even there, he said some very interesting things. I think it was Aaron Sorkin or someone who also said that in a film, you kind of put a character up on a tree, like you get them to climb up onto a tree and then throw rocks at them. So, in the sense that the character must constantly have a positive resistance, nothing should come easy. And that can mean many things. It can mean in the sense of it being literally physically difficult. If it's a physically challenging sort of a story, it can literally be, it can be emotional. It can be, they have to have something they want, and again they're not getting it. They're not getting it. Something or the other is happening, because of which that final thing they want, whether it's peace of mind, whether it's a lot of money, a relationship, whatever it is that they're desiring, there needs to be a positive resistance that keeps coming in and stopping them, because then that is your story. Your whole story gets written when you're like obstacle one, obstacle two, three, four, till this person finally
Beautiful.
reaches. And
Wow.
along the way, they keep leveling up as a person and keep changing as a person, because obstacles change you. I mean, you're
Right.
not going to stay the same along
Yeah.
the way. So I think that was one very very helpful piece of advice. And I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who wrote Fleabag, had also said, and I think I saw one of her interviews or something, and she said something great. She just basically said that the way you should write a character is to basically keep, I'm going to paraphrase it very badly, but I think she said that you should do as you should keep disarming the audience with comedy
Mm-hmm.
and then bringing in drama. So, and when I mean comedy, now it doesn't have to be your laugh out loud comedy, but basically there's a lightness. Things are just about to go okay and something goes wrong. And things are just about to go okay and something goes wrong. And that rhythm, right? If you fix it
Mm.
really well, I think you can make a really gripping and an engaging film. And of course, right now it sounds too templatized, but
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's my whole issue with sometimes reading a lot of the screenwriting stuff, because you should organically just write what you want to write. But
Mm.
what structure gives you, right? Like an act one, an act two, an act three, an inciting incident, then becomes this, all of that, that whole thing that any of you will read, or the hero's journey, you can find it anywhere online. What it does is, if you really were to write your script by that structure,
Mm-hmm.
you get free to fill up the parts,
Mm.
rather than trying to say, how do I tell this story? Because that's the thing I find a lot of writers get stuck with, that I
Right,
have this great story I want to write about this idea, these people, but where do I start? Where do I end?
right,
And that structure helps you do that.
right.
Unless you're trying to do a genre bending, structure changing sort of a scene,
Mm.
which is different. But even something like Parasite, right? Like you guys have all seen Bong
Yeah,
Joon-ho's Parasite, I'm sure. It is genre bending, and all of Bong Joon-ho's stuff is like that. So it
all
starts
of
out
it.
as a family drama and suddenly goes into this thriller,
Yeah,
horror kind of a zone.
yeah.
But you have to still see his screenplay has structure. He's
Mm.
not just gone whack, with in any direction and started with a flashback and started here. He has a structure. We introduce the people, something happens to them after out, because of which they have to set out onto a journey, because
Mm.
of which something happens. Like there is a structure to how he has kind of written the film. So I think characters and settings, kind of happen very much within this structure.
Mm.
And I think to write a memorable character, I mean, it's very difficult, but I think to me, it helps to honestly write people I've met. I mean, there are a lot of interesting people you're meeting on a daily basis. Meet all kinds of people across social classes. Talk to people, talk to your Uber driver, talk to people like that. I mean, don't just sail through life. Like you got
Yeah,
to interact with people and be out there. And that's why I've never got writers who are recluses in a sense, because what happens is it's great to be a recluse if you're writing a completely imaginary world, which is
right.
probably like what a Harry Potter or something is like, right? But when you're trying to write real stories,
Mm.
for me, my characters have all been real people.
Mm.
Like anyone I've ever written, and I've just done, I mean, in fiction, I've just done a couple of short films. But I think when I do put out some long format stuff, hopefully you guys will watch this year or next year. I mean, and maybe back then we should all connect again. But
Yeah,
I will tell you, like, they are all people that I have met, and that's the best, because people you meet have, everybody on this call, right, is so unique in their own way and has a
absolutely.
certain way they speak and a certain quirk, and someone has a lisp and someone has a whatever, and
Yeah.
if you just manage to bring even 10% of that to a screen, you'll have such authentic characters and they'll be so relatable. So
Mm.
I think, yeah, I mean, that is, yeah, I guess that's the answer.
So the same character in a different setting could become another story,
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
right?
I think that happens.
That happens, right? So what do you know, like out of when do you know when you're trying to imagine a character? When do you know that you've found the right match between the character and the setting?
I think they come one and out of each other. I mean, I think they're very intricately linked, right? Like you know, so the thing is, I think you should displace a character from the setting if it's going to add something to your story. So, a urban girl in a village, right? I mean, if you guys, or if a urban guy in a village, which is panchayat, if you guys have all seen TV apps panchayat,
Yeah.
right? Why does that work? Because a regular urban average guy who's not getting a job, yeah, okay, fine. That's everybody in an
Mm.
urban metropolis. What is so interesting about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you put him in a village,
Mm.
right? And you
Mm.
put him there as literally a part of the panchayat in the as a part of running of that place,
Hmm.
and someone who's actually a loser in our
Hmm.
city context, but
Hmm.
actually suddenly has a lot of respect and a lot of fan following
In a
in this
different place.
village.
Yeah.
Correct, right? So that's interesting. I think displacing a character is interesting when you get something like that out of it.
Hmm.
But otherwise, I tend to write things that are pretty straightforward. I mean, the setting is where they are in, and all the action tends to happen there itself. I mean,
Hmm.
so far in whatever I've written, it's not been something of that sort. But yeah, I think it does make a big difference if you change where they are. I just don't think it's a process that you do, that I have separately figured out what my character is and separately what my setting is. It usually is, I'm trying to save something, and that's intricately linked, right? And your brain just
Also
gives it to
because
you
you
like
do
that as an
very
idea.
also because you do very real life, your characters are
Yeah,
from your real life. So I think
exactly.
for you the character comes with their settings.
Yeah.
It's you would see that kind of a girl in the market, and you would see another kind of a man in a bar, and that's
Yeah,
because you have seen something
and
like that.
correct. And I think the character, honestly, for me, like I don't start with backstory first. I
Hmm.
have a certain way I'm already writing. Like, for example, I have somebody who's a bit catty and somebody who is a bit more submissive and something, and that's the scene. And
Hmm.
now within that, I actually ask myself, but why is she like this and why is she like that? And the background story comes after that. So a lot of, I think, writers do start with, I have 10 character sketches and I'm going to start figuring out what my story is. For me, the story just starts. Like, it's like the way I write a screenplay first, and then I write everything else. So
Oh.
it's a strange, different kind of a process. And you should have a backstory, especially when you're going to work with actors, because,
Hmm. They would
there
need
should be
a
a,
reference.
even if you made up the reason later, you have to have a reason.
For
Like
them, you need to have it.
when I went to Devi, I kind of before set, I think 2 days before we went on set, every single actor had a one pager on their character and a day in the life of their
Hmm.
character,
Hmm.
because it was a short film and there was very little time to establish everyone's personalities and backgrounds and the cities, countries, what's not countries but cities, towns they were from.
Hmm.
So they were given that one pager. Now I don't know how much of it translated and how much you could really tell because the film was so short.
Hmm.
But I think as actors, once they had that, and then they were armed with their costume and everything, they were just on their own.
Hmm.
I didn't have to come and one by one tell them that guys do this and ye accent up essay low and ye low, because then they have got their material and then they want to work and they're going to
Right.
do it on their own.
Hmm.
And I think the best thing you can do is actually get out of the way of talented people. Just give them some things and just see how they do it, because so many of them are like gonna all that, it only makes you look better as a director when all of them come together and they kind of do their best. I think it
Yeah.
only makes you, because I can walk away saying I did all of that but it wasn't, they all did it and they all brought that to the table.
Perfect. So I think, Victor, your question is well in time. He's asking, how do I develop a character based on my own emotionality?
Can you elaborate when you mean your own emotionality? Do you mean like your own life and your own life events, or what do you mean really when you're trying to write that?
Victor, do you want to unmute and just talk about what you're thinking? Typing might be more time taking.
On your life events.
Okay.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, honestly, that's such a, first of all, that's a very brave thing to do,
Hmm.
because when you write something about your own life, people can always tell it's about your own life, because, you write it with such a specificity that everyone says, "Achha, this has happened to you. That's why I've
Yeah.
written it like that." But I think when you write it, it's important to also leave out, like, if you look at a film like, just to give you an example, have you all seen The Big Sick?
I have not.
Kumail Nanjiani and his wife wrote it, and it was a rom com, but it was an indie rom com. So actually, the screenplay got nominated for an Oscar. One of those rom coms, literally, where it's so
Wow.
well written and so well made that it's got like that kind of Oscar buzz and everything. Now that was the story of their actual relationship and how they got together. Now
Hmm.
that's literally that, right? And they said, and I think I completely agree that what happens to us in our life feels very profound to us, and
Hmm.
when you're writing it in a screenplay, not all of it really fits in and not all of it really matters to anybody. So
Yeah.
you maybe had a conversation with your mom that, has triggered something from your past that really means so much to you, but to an audience,
Hmm.
They need to see a story that works within itself. They don't have the time to come and ask you
Hmm.
what was the backstory here and why this, that, and the other. So you have to write something that would be objectively interesting to an audience, even if it's inspired. So if it's inspired from your own life events, you're lucky. Something has happened to you that was worth writing
Yeah.
in a film. But it still has to be a film, and it still has to be a film that will engage anybody, right?
Hmm.
And that, I think, is an important balance to
So are
strike.
you saying that even if it's from your life events, at some point you have to disconnect
Yeah,
yourself emotionally
absolutely.
from that and look at it as a
Absolutely.
pure character?
Yeah, I think you have to look at it that way, because of what happens in real life is none of us is just one person, right?
Hmm.
We are many, many people within itself. And that's why when you pick up from real life and write a screenplay, it's great because you'll get three-dimensional characters.
Hmm.
Because, but then you have to do a lot of work to justify everything that they're doing. Like with me as a human being, I might be one person with my mom, one person with my partner, one person with my
True.
child, whatever, right? And
Yeah.
that is just naturally there. But then in a screenplay, when that comes around for an audience, it's like, is this person okay? Like what is happening? And that justification then has to be given very clearly, because a film, for that to be three-dimensional, is very difficult, right? So like, I would say when you're picking from your life events, pick threads from your life events. Pick like, these are the things that have really made a difference to me, and these are the things that would also, quite honestly, be something new for people, or
Hmm.
a new take. Because human emotions, we are all dealing with the same emotions at the end of the day. So if you come and tell me a story that has probably happened to me also, but you tell it to me in that in a very blah way,
Yeah.
that's not going to make a difference to me. But if you tell me that same story with a take on it, what I said earlier, that you need to have your own take on how you're going to tell that story.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry, these things all sound very abstract. I just hope like some of it is
No,
landing and
sure.
is making sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the tricky thing. But the great thing about writing about your own life is how passionately you will write about it. How much heart you will put into it, and all of that does come across. If you've written, but it has to be a balance of heart and craft.
Hmm.
Like it can't just be that, oh, I feel so much, so I wrote this, because that,
End of the day, it's a story. It's a film. It is
exactly.
not a biography. And even if it's a biography, it's a story that you're putting it out there for other people to relate to. So they
Yeah,
will
I think
not relate
in
to
a
it.
in a nutshell, say something new or say something old, but in a new way. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? There are two ways you can actually do that. And yeah, I think
Hmm.
as long as that happens, it's good. Like if you see a lot of these Ayushman Khurrana string of films that came, right, which were
Yeah.
all concept heavy,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
there's a badhai ho, or there's a something or the other, all different things are happening. But then you also have films, about people, which are about literally this. I mean, if you see something like, I don't know, 500 Days of Summer, if anyone's seen that,
Yeah.
yeah, very typical story. Boy meets
Standard.
girl,
Yeah.
boy doesn't get girl, but the way it's done is
Hmm.
so different, right? And it's so refreshing.
The
So
execution of that.
yeah,
Yeah. The
exactly,
execution of that.
exactly.
Which
Because
again, I mean, connects back to what you've been saying, that your own intent, my own intent into the story, my own personality into this, my own take into it is what's the new part of it. We all keep
yeah,
talking about what's new, like the client asking you to give you a new look, the film a new look. But what is new? New
yeah,
is something that's coming to you at that point of time and it's pure and there's an intent of it. That's new.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So great that some of you have been participating. I'm going to do like a few fun things with Priyanka quickly. If you have any questions, think about it, take 2 minutes and send it out. So, Priyanka, what really is your job and what outsiders think it is?
Okay. uh, so what really is my job is actually getting to set, probably one of the earliest people to get there, to kind of manage a lot of egos and a lot of people at the same time, and also remember what I want in the middle of all of that without stepping on anyone's shoes. So there's that. And what people think it is I just order people around that I can reach anytime I like. And people always tell me, but why are you working so hard? You're the director. Like, just get on set and, swirl like your coffee and tell people what to do. And I'm like, the first statement itself is problematic. Why are you working so much? You're a director. The director is not there to chill. The director is there to direct people in a certain direction, and that is the task. But it's people management, and I think a lot of people don't get that. I think a lot of people think it's just being bossy. Like you're there because you like being bossy,
Yeah.
and the other
And that
people are the
director's
ones.
chair, that lovely director's chair which you see in all the shots.
I'm
It's
pretty sure my friends who are not from the industry think I sit on that chair and that's
yeah.
what I do, but that's not true at all.
So
Yeah.
which is that film that you wish you had directed or written?
Udan
Mm. And
or
what would you
Trapped
have done to that?
or
Or
Trapped. All Vikramaditya Motwani films make me very sad because I just wish I had made them. Like I think because I just in the way I think and I write, I think I'm very similar to his style of filmmaking.
Hmm.
So when I watch any of them, I get depressed. Like I love it, but then I get upset because I'm like,
Why didn't I do
wow,
it?
why didn't I do it? Like when I saw Trapped, I was like such a simple concept. Like anyone could have thought of it.
Yeah.
But of course he thought of it and he wrote it. So yeah,
Miss ho gaya.
yeah.
Okay. So what's the maximum amount of retakes you've ever taken in a shot?
Not many. I'm very easy to impress. I think in max 5. I don't do too many. I think if I have to do so many, I've cast the wrong person. Like I'm not a Fincher-ish type of person who's like 7,700 and all of that. Like I'm not going to make somebody do it that many times because it'll stop being fun.
Yeah.
And you know, y'all are not parts in my machine. I mean, you're all people, and I think it's important they enjoy it also.
So you you
So
you
I'm
don't you don't get proud about saying that I took so many shots too.
not at all, not at all. I just I'm just naturally like a very like, and not that I'm trying to say if there's anything wrong with Fincher. I mean, who am I to tell them that? But I just think Fincher has a different way, and a lot of directors. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock used to call actors cattle. He would say that just direct the cattle around and make sure they look good in the frame, you know. Like now I don't like that. I think it's too impersonal and I'm not that kind of person. And yeah, so it's different for me. I mean, I think
This is your style.
I think the whole process is important, like not just whether the film was great and people liked it,
Hmm.
but was your time on set good? Did people enjoy themselves?
Yeah.
I have that holistic kind of approach to it, so I think it's a success if all those things are a tick mark. And yeah, yeah.
If not a filmmaker, what would you have been?
I would have been a literature professor. So
Oh,
I studied English literature, and
teacher ji,
yeah, I
ma'am,
mean,
ma'am,
yeah,
Priyanka
yeah.
ma'am.
I really wanted to do my PhD, and it was a whole thing. But then I decided to instead pursue this. So yeah,
Thank God.
yeah. So I'd be teaching literature. That's what I would be doing.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Bless the colleges. What makes you happy?
Travel and sitting on an edit and seeing it come together really, really well. And because the edit is such a chill phase as opposed to when you're getting down to, okay, my my partner's gonna have to open that anyway. Yeah, so I mean, I think when you're, you know, like when you're on set, I think it's such a crazy feeling. But when you're editing, that's when you've like all you're just looking at the fruits of your labor and you're like, how is this, you know, looking and how is it coming together? It's like already watching your film
Hmm.
even as it's coming together. So that's very exciting. I think that makes me very
And
happy.
traveling, you said.
Yes, traveling.
Perfect. Awesome. So, guys, any questions? I hope you've been thinking about your own processes in this. I think Priyanka has captured a full course of 3 years at least. No, really. I'm gonna listen to this again and again and figure out. But
How
um,
sweet.
so much that you have said and wrapped up in a bit of a time around writing, around directing, around being the person that you are on the set, and of course that comes from who you are in your real life. That's beautiful. And again, I think we all know it, but very good to remember is always work with the people that you vibe well with. That's definitely something, because sometimes we aspire to work with, let's say, the best in so and so and the best in so and so, and sure, technically it might be, but if you're not vibing well, then it reflects into the story as much.
Yeah.
Lovely. Super good. So thank you, Priyanka. I know it was like I didn't let you breathe. I'm sorry, but
No, no, that's fine. This was great, and it's always nice to answer these kind of such insightful questions because it gets me also thinking about my process and all of that. So I think that was great.
I know that's what I say at Malhar, that we all have to give ourselves time to disconnect and learn. And yes, Urmo, please.
Yeah, so I have a little question. So when I am like working with a lot of characters together in a story, how important is to flesh out each character uh, equally? Like many a times what happens is like I'm fleshing out a character which is like pretty good, but in doing so I'm not giving that much importance to another character which I should have actually. So how important is that balance?
Hmm. Okay. I mean, just to kind of, I just want to answer with an example because I think it's better than to be abstract. You have you seen Interstellar? Okay, so I've forgotten all their names, but would you say that it is like Matthew McConaughey's story or Anne Hathaway's story?
No, nothing like in particular.
Like it's Matthew's story? Whose story is it? But or you think it's nobody's story? It's everyone's story.
I think, yeah, it's Matthew's story, like in a bigger picture, but uh, of course there are the other characters that definitely makes sense and like gives equal
Yeah, so
part.
so
Yeah,
I think that like the way it's written as a film, and just to give you an example, there is the protagonist, which is him, and yes, his character is definitely more fleshed out than the others. But what the others are doing is they are written in service of the story and in service of his character. So you don't really notice if they have been fleshed out or not because they are trying to tell you a story and they are trying to tell you his story more so. So as long as they are aiding that process, and of course, now they should not be so one-dimensional that you don't feel anything for those characters. You must feel something for those characters. So I think when you're writing the story, you should be like, this is my protagonist and this is their story. So they get definitely the most screen time. But the other people that come in, they should be people I like or I care about as an audience. They should not just be kind of fluttering through the frames and having nothing to do with anything. Neither should they be so inconsequential that they are only there in service of the hero. It shouldn't be that way also because there are, I think Hindi films do this a lot. There's a lot of exposition. There'll be two, three people just to say as the hero's entering, he is the most good looking guy in college. Like there'll be three
right,
characters just to say that. And that you can denote that he's the most good looking guy with a different conversation also. So I'm saying like that, just let's kind of give, I would say when you're writing the characters, just my advice would be definitely your protagonist needs to take up most time, but these other smaller characters, they need to be someone I will care about for the time that they are on screen. And how you do that is up to you. So they should, everybody should have something to do there which is real, otherwise you don't need that character. Like there is no rule that there have to be these many number of characters in a film. Just have people that we'll care about. That's all. I think that's important.
right.
Does it answer you?
Got it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
well, I absolutely love Devi. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Perfect. So now you have now you have a face and a voice to the person behind it also, which completes the circle, right? And of course, there's a whole team of people who put
Yes.
it
Yes.
together. It's never one person, but she's the person who does all that, not bossing around and like doing. Now you recognize. All right, I would let you rest, Priyanka. Thank you so much. Really, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I hope this
Yeah.
was helpful. And
Guys, okay,
yeah,
come on, let's give some signal to Priyanka. Was it helpful or not? You can't be like mute and like,
everyone's like at gunpoint. Yes,
yeah.
it was helpful.
No, no, say the truth, but say it. Was it helpful or not?
Yeah, I've seen the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Awesome.
great.
Good, good. So thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you, guys.
Malhar stays alive for many, many days.
Yes.
So I hope you watch, and all the filmmakers are here. And if you have comments for anybody's films, please do drop. It'll be like a nice feedback for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
We are going to move into in 10 minutes, we're going to move into the next session, which is from Kimani. Kimani is going to talk about more new stuff, which is all to do with Web3. But he's himself developed a damn good protocol, which is called the Alamo structure, which is all new for the creators. It is about getting your power in your control, making sure how your scripts are protected, how your dialogues are protected, how your film as a whole piece is protected, how do you fractionalize it. A lot of new stuff that I've been talking about coming from the Web3. So I really look up to Kamani to put that together. So he's walking in as Priyanka is walking out.
All right. Great.
Thank you, Priyanka. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
See you all
Bye.
around. That's the next link for the next session, guys. See you. Bye, Priyanka.
Bye.